Throughout history, every Go player has been asking, does the divine move exist? This game is played in 2018 during the AI tournament final between Fine Art and Golaxy. This is their second game. Fine Art is playing as black and Golaxy is playing as white. White invades into the 3-3 and then Fine Art blocks. Usually a lot of my viewers would be confused, like, isn't black supposed to block this direction and build on the left? That is absolutely correct. However, these days the theory is that if you want to build on the left side, you should block on the opposite direction. The reason you do that is because you can use your joseki to turn the direction and still seal white in here and build on the left. Let's take a look. White bumps into black, black blocks, white honeys and black honeys on the second line. White honeys and black cuts. White ataris. So here, if white atari is over here, then black can simply atari, make a double tiger's mouth, and we can see that black is still building towards the left. So white really doesn't have a choice but to give black the left side. In the actual game, white ataris on the second line, that's one of the other main variations. Black ataris, white captures, and then they play out the book moves, joseki. So at this point, we can see that black successfully turned the direction towards the left side. So it's very good direction of play after all. White plays the corner enclosure and black shoulder hits. Very AI move. White crawls and black tanukis to take the remaining corner. Of course, if you play the jump here, that would also be a great move. Not only builds the left side, but also expand the moyo in the center. But Fine Art wanted more efficiency and therefore he invades the corner. And then they play out a joseki like this. This would usually lead to the flying knife joseki when white plays the honey, black bumps, white extends, and we go into a very complex joseki. However, in this game, Fine Art simply extends the stone back, which is a little surprising. It is still a joseki, but it feels a little soft. White plays the tiger's mouth, and black plays the honey, trying to create weakness in white's formation. White cuts, black immediately honey connects because that's a must-play move. If black doesn't play the move, then white honey connect is a sente against black's corner, and that's not acceptable for black. Black honeys, white blocks, and black connects. Here, most human players would have played the jump over here because that is locally the best shape. However, the AI decided to be very efficient and keep this stone alive as well, while leaving some aji in the center. So let's talk about the pros and cons for both variations. When white plays the tiger's mouth, black has no choice but to drag the stone out. If black plays somewhere else when white adds another move, white's influence is just perfect. And this perfect influence has way too much value that black can simply not accept. So this is inviting a fight, right? And black has to fight immediately. When white jumps over here, black can actually not just drag the stone out and fight. Because where the stone is placed, white can simply push on top, and black is in a very awkward situation right now. But the cons for white to jump over here is that even if black doesn't play locally right now, there's no good follow-up for white. White always has a weakness, that is to cut and run out, and this stone is pretty much dead. And white really doesn't have any good shape to fix it. For example, if white plays this, then black still has this weakness over here, making this move very inefficient. But if white fixes like this, we can see it doesn't really entirely fix the cutting point over here. So that is the problem with white jumping on the fourth line. Let's look at the actual game. White placed the tiger's mouth, and black decides to fight, as he should. Here, white cannot tanuki. Okay, locally, if white plays a tanuki, then black is going to play the kosumi and the kema. Now, this will kill white, right? It's not like trying to suppress white or anything. This simply captures white over here. If white plays the hani, black will play the tiger's mouth, and there's no way for white to really get out from this point. So that's an absolute sente against white. White had to respond to it. Black pushes on top, white hanes, and black plays the hane on top. And white cuts in the actual game. So this is very interesting because for AI software, they think that this variation is okay for white. And actually, it's probably giving whites the highest win rate. But as for human players, this would be very hard to accept. Like I personally, or even a lot of professionals, would have trouble to play this move. Even if the win rate is high, and even if we know the win rate is very high for white to play like this, it still looks pretty terrible for white. Because in the actual game, black Atari's on top, white extends, and then white suffers another Atari, and then another 2 Ataris, and white has to go into a shape like this. And after black connects in the center, we can see that black was able to get the corner, and black also gained a very beautiful outside. And now white is all inside here, all capped inside this very narrow area. So I personally don't like this as white, even if I know this is a very high win rate for white. The variation that I would probably have chosen is to simply extend out. But of course, after black plays the tiger's mouth, because the peep here, it's a little awkward for white's group over here. But still, I feel like this shape could have been a little bit more efficient than what white played in the actual game. But of course, that just shows you that I don't really know Go that well to judge AI. But I'm just saying my feeling, because as we can see from a human perspective, especially with this Atari, it's very painful. Like white has to connect over here, and then black connects. I think this is a lot of value. But anyway, Golaxy doesn't agree with me, and therefore, let's see what happened. White now plays the small knight. This is very urgent move. If not, black is going to play here. Not only pressuring the corner, but also we can see the moyo is getting out of control. Next up, since white played the kema, black is going to come back and take the very big move over here. It was a miai. White now invades, and black pincers. And this is a very AI style pincer. Most of the human players would just pincer low, making sure white doesn't really have room to make eye space. But for fine art, if white goes into the side and try to make some eye space, fine art thinks it's okay. It's more important to play the stone high to put pressure, to basically put obstacles for to prevent white from coming out. In the actual game, Golaxy didn't go for building roots because he knows that white won't have enough ice space regardless. Therefore, he placed the Kema to get out. Black pushes on top. Here, a common mistake is for players to push and cut here. The reason you don't really want to push and cut is then white can transfer towards the corner. And then white is very slippery and it's very difficult for black to deal with this. If you deal with the corner, then white will play the Atari with the tiger's mouth and break through from here. So this makes white super slippery, and black really doesn't want that to happen. And therefore, black pushes on top, and the next move is a beautiful Tsuji from Golaxy. That is to jump and makes the shape very, very light. And that's usually what you want when you invade. Black plays the Kema, very beautiful directional move. Now, if black tries to cut, we will have the similar problem because white is very slippery. So white won't really fight you over here. You would expect white to go into this variation, which is a little difficult for white. But white can actually hane on the outside. Black pushes, and now white connects. And now, as we can see, black's corner is in serious trouble. While the outside, we're not so sure what kind of value black's going to create, but this is already a huge loss of value. So that's not acceptable for black. Alternatively, if black pushes try to cut like this, then white is once again extremely slippery with all these Ataris. If black connects, white connects on top, black cuts, and white will sacrifice these two stones happily and break through here, hurting the stone over here and putting pressure on black's two stones. This would also be a winning position for white. That is why in the actual game, Fine Art played correctly by trying to attack white as a whole. White attaches into the corner, trying to live the corner. Black prevents that, and there's a very fierce fight breaking out. White hanes on top, black Ataris, white extends. Black Ataris, white Ataris on the bottom, black captures, and white squeeze Atari, forming a ko. Here, a common mistake that we might play is to start a ko immediately. The reason it's a mistake is because we don't have enough ko threats. So very important for you to count how many ko threats you have on the outside before you start a very brutal ko like this. For example, if black Ataris, white will take. Black has a 1 ko threat over here, and this is a point losing ko threat. White captures, black takes. White has an extend on the first line. If black Ataris, then white will take back. And now when black comes to find some ko threat over here, white doesn't really have to respond to this. White can simply connect, and there's no way for black to completely destroy white over here. If black hanes, white will bump into black. Black Ataris, white connects. And now, as we can see, a very serious cutting point over here. Black pretty much has to give up the stone on the second line and letting white to live. If black doesn't do that, then white can cut over here. That's a sente. Black connects, and white turns. And now, as we can see, black is pretty much just dead inside. But of course, if black connects, then white can Atari the second line stone and live the corner. So what black gained over here is not very significant comparing to what white gained over here. And this would be a very big leading game for white if the game plays out like this. So Fine Art showed us what we should do instead, right? When we don't have enough ko threat, it's very important that we play a move to try to create ko threats outside. Against this move, white is in a very awkward situation. If white blocks, then black plays the second line hane. This will create a ko threat. So black just needs to create 1 ko threat, right? Because he already has a ko threat over here. Then black is able to destroy white over here. So Golaxy was thinking, well, since you're going to try to create a ko threat right here, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to lose the ko over here to try to gain a lot of profit, or try to make your exchanges losing exchanges. Black pushes, white blocks, and this is exactly what happened in the game. White was able to gain a lot of profits because black was trying to get ko threats. So at this point, after turning here, black decided to Atari because he already created very big ko threats over here. White takes, and black now turns. Here, white has to respond to this. Therefore, white Atari's on the second line. Black takes, and white extends on the first line. Black now extends once again. Instead of starting the ko right away, Fine Art plays an extra move to make this ko threat even bigger, ensuring that Golaxy cannot just get rid of the ko over here. White Ataris and black Ataris starting the final bomb. And when white takes back, black plays the double Atari. And this is a very big ko threat. And Golaxy could not really connect here because black would capture like this. And white has to live here in a gote. Here, white's way to live is to play the connect. So if black takes away the vital point, then we see that this is a sente. So after black fixes, then we can go into the corner and live. So white can live, but white needs to live in a gote. So after that, we can see that black gained tremendous value over here, right? This is likely going to become territory. So this would be a good game moving forward for black. So when white takes back, black tries to find ko threat. In the actual game, Golaxy decided to get rid of this group, gaining tremendous value, making sure that all these exchanges are point-losing exchanges for black. But of course, Fine Art is going to get his compensation by completely destroying white over here. So it's still white's turn, so white needs to find a ko threat. So white decided to push on top, and of course, Fine Art will ignore that. White extends out, completely breaking all the moyo in here. So black gained a lot of profits over here, but white was able to gain this capture plus the extension in compensation. The game is still fairly close. Very well played by both sides. I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you are, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. And if you want to dive deeper and support what I'm doing, check out my Patreon. I regularly post exclusive high-quality content on josekis, pro game breakdowns, and even full courses. Stuff you won't find anywhere else. The link is in the description. Thanks so much. Let's continue. Black comes back to seal the site. So this was a very big move that Fine Art wanted to play because pretty much this becomes like territory. If white invades, black is probably going to kill white in here. So very big move. And then Golaxy plays the Kosumi. This is a very cunning move. If black doesn't answer, then there is an extension and black's side is just dead. That's why in the actual game, black has to take the stone and making sure he is alive. Next up, we have white desperately trying to run into the center. Because if you don't play this move, when black comes here, because of how thick black is over here, this group is in very serious trouble. Like for humans, it's very easy that you just die here completely, right? So Golaxy was of course very worried about that as well. Therefore, he hops out in a very light way. So at this point in the game, this is a little bit difficult for Fine Art because Fine Art needs to find a very precise way to attack white's two groups in the center. But as we can see, this is not very easy. First of all, white's group over here is quite strong. There's a wedge over here capturing black's 3 stones but also connect through. If black rushes to connect, then white will jump out like this. And now we're not certain who attacks who. These black guys are also under a lot of threat. So it's very difficult to attack white. But then when we look at this, the group over here, it's also very slippery, very hard to deal with. If black plays the shake move, then white can use this elephant eye to get out. And if black attaches on top trying to cut white, white doesn't have to fight immediately locally. White can play a very flexible move, trying to push through and counterattack the 3 stones that black has over here. And of course, if black now responds, then white can Hane, Atari, and then drive the 2 stones. And now as we can see, white will have no problem dealing with this group over here. If black keeps pushing, white has a very nice driving sequence. And now as we can see after peep over here, white is absolutely fine. And black has a very inefficient shape. Of course, if black decides to secure the top, then white is going to push through. And now not only white was able to break the territory over here, which is enough, but the bigger problem is now black's 3 stones has to worry about the safety. So these variations won't work for fine art. And this is a very difficult moment, I would say, if this was a human player playing as black. So the next move is our divine move. If there's a move that resembles divine move ever, it's going to be the next move. It's the best move I have seen, which makes this game so good. And I think this is the best game I've ever seen in my life. My favorite game, absolutely. The next move, black plays the Kema in the center. So what's crazy about this move is that it's so AI. Like humans, there's no chance like a human would find a move like this in the actual game. And at first glance, our first impression would be, I don't really understand what black is doing. It feels like it's waiting for a move. It feels like it has some value, but it doesn't really do anything. But the more time you spend thinking about this move, the more power you feel from this move, right? You think it's, oh, maybe it's a okay move. And then after 10 minutes of thinking, you'd be like, maybe it's like better than okay. Maybe it's an excellent move. And it's very hard for me to actually explain this move in a very precise manner, of course, because this is a divine move. This is just beyond human level. This is beyond human comprehension. So the best I can do to try to explain it to you is that, as we have said, both groups are very hard to catch. And black is playing a move in the middle, trying to create a very high level Mii. So with this move, if white decides to fix the group over here, then black will connect. Now, thanks to this move, it's quite difficult for white to get out through here. White's probably going to die here or suffer huge consequences. For example, if white hops out, then black will probably just extend like this. And thanks to this move and this wall over here, this is making white's life very difficult. If white trying to struggle here and making black really thick, black can come back and start attacking the group once again. Now, of course, if white rushes to kill the 3 stones over here, because black had a waiting move that made everything stronger on the board, now black can think about the very fierce cutting move over here, or simply capping white inside entirely. So I have been looking at this position for quite a while, and I was trying to sense how white player would feel at this point. And my feeling is, the more you look at black's move, the more you feel like it is hard to breathe. It used to be, before black played this move, used to be, white is happy. Both groups are very slippery, and there's nothing black can do about them, right? If you attack them individually, they all have ways to get out or start a counterattack. But then after this seemingly waiting move in the center, all of a sudden, white went from, oh, nothing you can do about either of my group, to, well, how can I deal with, both of each of my group at the same time? It just feels like white can't, right? This move creates a very high level Mii against the fate of both of my groups, and I can't deal with them at the same time because you can only play one move at a time. So that's the best way I can put it. Now that I just explained what this move does on the board, I also want to talk to you about what I learned from this move for my life. Too often, we face problems with no clear solution. But when we begin to understand the flow and momentum of life, we start to see things from a higher dimension. Take addiction, for example. Maybe I don't have the willpower to quit. Instead of blaming myself, the real answer might be to fill my life with small sources of pleasure. A free yoga class in the park, exploring an open house in a luxury condo, a quiet fishing trip to a city lake, standing on a rooftop to watch the fireworks, or walking around with my favorite soundtrack in my ears. When life is full of simple, honest pleasures, I regain control of the momentum, and slowly,
the grip of addiction weakens, not through force, but through flow. The solutions we search for don't always come from struggle and logic. Like nature, they move in rhythm we can't force or fully explain. The best we can do is to ride that rhythm, follow the flow, and wait for the right moment. Because sometimes, like this divine move, the answer doesn't attack anything directly. It simply shifts the balance of the universe in your favor. And suddenly, you're winning the whole game. So this is how I felt after thinking about this move for a long time. Let me know how you feel about this move by commenting below the video.
There we go. If something resembles the divine move, I think this would be the closest that I can find for you. A very deep, idea move. It's a very deep directional idea preparation. Of course, a lot of reading as well against both group. And you're not playing the jump here, you're not playing the Kosumi here, but you're just playing the Kema here, and that's just crazy to me. Like, this move is absolutely insane. So at this point, of course, Golaxy felt tremendous pressure from the divine move, and Golaxy has to play very efficient, very careful, and also very aggressive, making sure there's a lot of counterattack. Right after this, both groups are kind of in trouble, and therefore Golaxy plays the capping move on top. So this move is a very strong move. The idea for this move is not only to take care of the group over here, but also trying to help out the group, right? Because when a fight breaks out, this move could add help to this group trying to escape. Next up, we have Golaxy, we have Fine Art attaching into White. So from this point on, it's all God's fight. These are insane moves. White doesn't even respond to it. This is so not human. Normally we would Hane in either direction, but Golaxy is saying, hey, let me Tanuki here and poke you. Black pushes, White extends, Black connects, and now Golaxy finally comes back to deal with the problem. So the idea for Fine Art to attach over here is to follow up with the divine move. That is to basically try to strengthen the group over here. Once Black strengthens over here, then Black can come back and connect and try to kill White. And what Golaxy is fighting for is making sure that Black cannot get strong in Sente. So that's pretty much the theme of the fight. White Hanes, Black Hanes, White Ataris, Black connects, and White pushes on the bottom. Black cuts, White Ataris, and Black extends, and here Golaxy has to come back and play a Tiger's Mouth. If you rush to play something like this, then when Black clamps over here, this is very difficult. White is probably going to lose the group over here. Or even this cut is very, very hard to deal with. So Golaxy sees all that, and therefore he decides to strengthen the group over here first. And then let's see what happens over here. Next up, we have Fine Art cutting and doing some preparation. These are very good moves. If Black doesn't cut and just go directly for the kill, for example, if Black plays the connect, then I think White can jump over here. This is looking at the weakness over here, and of course this is threatening the group over here. So if Black plays the extend, then White is going to play the Kosumi, and this is a very serious counterattack from Golaxy, right? If Black pushes through, then we have a push over here. Then this is causing a lot of trouble for Black, right? Black connects, we can push like this, and White is pretty much out because of the weaknesses that Black has. So before Black goes ahead with the final attack, Black decided to cut and creating even more strength for Black over here. So after these exchanges, Black finally comes back to attack White. White jumps into the center, Black extends, and now White plays the Kosumi as I have shown. And here Black Ataris. The reason White doesn't want to connect here is, yes, there is a Sente here, but then after Black fixes, there's a Mii on the board. Black is trying to turn here and kill the whole group. So if White plays a move to prevent that from happening, For example, a move like this, or this. This is a cleaner kill. Well, it doesn't matter. The problem is because the 3 stones are very strong here, black can simply push. When you play here, black connects, and as we can see, this is just completely hopeless for white now, right? Good luck making 2 eyes in here. So because of the exchanges that Fine Art has made, which is pretty insane, this becomes a very difficult fight for Golaxy right now. So in the actual game, Golaxy Ataris, black captures, and now this group becomes very, very strong. And now Golaxy has to play another move to fix the group on top. Black Ataris, white connects. And this is all just insane moves, right? Like you can also call this kind of like a divine move. Well, not really, but this is like a really good move. And the reason it's so complex to explain this move. So the reason black plays the Atari, let's see what black played. And then Atari here. And when white captures, black decides to not play locally, which is pretty insane because normally human players would just like, oh, let's extend, right? But the idea for Fine Art to play these exchanges is to make sure that this Atari is very urgent for white. And since this Atari is very urgent for white, and therefore black can gain the move here to kill the white's group over here. So let's see what happened. Fine Art connects, trying to kill white. And now, as we can see, white has to play this Atari. Right? White doesn't want to, but because of the exchanges that Fine Art made, white has to. Because if black pushes through, white is broken into pieces. White has no choice. Coming back and Atari. Black turns, and this fixes all the weaknesses that black has over here, making this group in a very hopeless situation. And white plays another move, capturing the 4 stones, making a new clear center, but also this move squeezes black's liberty by 1, and basically that helps a little bit the group on top. And finally, Fine Art plays another move. So we see that Fine Art played 1, 2, 3 moves to kill white's group over here. Golaxy decided to attack the group over here for his compensation, but this is all too easy for Fine Art. After crosscut, there's really not a good way to destroy black here. And Golaxy decides to go for the all-in, because at this point, Golaxy realizes that if this whole group is just killed like this, white wouldn't have enough points to compete, because this line is not sealed yet, so white can't really build a big moyo over here. So here comes the very exciting part. Golaxy is trying to drag the entire dragon out, trying to revive it. And Fine Art doesn't let that happen, obviously. So Golaxy plays a few exchanges over here. These are all Sente. After white captures, black has to live on the second line. And here, Golaxy is going for the final fight. He is trying to live the dragon. And this becomes a dragon slaying game at this point. White makes a shape in the center, and black attaches on top. White plays the Kosumi, black squeezes, white connects, and black turns, making sure that there's no eye over here. And after Golaxy plays the Kosumi, this looks quite complex. It looks like a very big life and death problem, except after Fine Art plays the simple Hane Connect, this is no longer a very complex life and death problem. This is just white is dead locally. So the reason this is dead locally is that if white plays the diamond, right, trying to make the eye, I think black can simply just squeeze over here. If white plays another eye, then black can squeeze, Atari, connect, and then attach. So we can see white only has 1 eye. And of course, if white plays the bump, then black can simply peep in, and this is also 1 eye for white. What else can white try, right? We talked about this move. What about white plays the tiger's mouth? Then black can also just play like this, and then black peeps in. This is also 1 eye for white. Pretty obvious. If white tries to some ninja moves such as this one, then we're back to the same variation that we just talked about. So fancy moves don't really work here. And in the actual game, Golaxy decided to block. This is a Sente. So after this exchange, White comes back trying to live. And here, the correct move is what fine art played, peep in and poke. And now we can see White is just dead locally. White takes and Black clams. All these are just the unnecessary exchanges. Golaxy has to come back and figure out a solution. Black bumps, and Golaxy managed to connect over here, and therefore Golaxy is consuming out, trying to attack the stones over here. Black attaches on top, White honeys, Black simply connects. Very well played by Fine Art. When White connects, we can see that there is a cutting point. But of course, Black comes back first to fix the cutting point that he has, forcing Golaxy to connect here. From the first glance, it looks like Golaxy is just dead in here. And in fact, that's true. But what Golaxy is hoping for is trying to kill Fine Art's dragon over here. Like this dragon. It's quite an insane project. Let's see if he can do it. Now, Fine Art is trying to run out, of course. He is scared because Golaxy is for the final fight. White plays here, Black has to squeeze, and White extends. This is a sente. Black has to prevent White from living. White connects over here. That's a very important liberty move. And Black now honey. So the reason this is a sente because White atsaris and cut, and therefore White has to play the tiger's mouth. And here Golaxy is going for the all-in, capping Black inside. Black kosumis, White blocks, honey connect, and White prevents Black from making an eye. Trying to go for an eye kills no eye. Black pushes, White has to connect, and Black now clamps on the second line. White connects, and Black connects underneath. Kosumi, that's a sente, and here White pushes on top, and second line pincer is coming. Really trying to just counter attack and kill the entire dragon. Black throws in, White takes, and Black comes back and connect here. This is a very good liberty fighting to Suji. If you don't play, if you play something else, for example, then White is going to cut over here. This will tighten Black's liberty. That's why when Black connects, we can see Black all of a sudden gained a lot of liberty. Very well played. White pushes. This is just a sente. It's a bit of an unnecessary exchange. And White now finally connects, forming a very big eye and extending the liberties. Black squeezes White, and White now... So after this liberty squeeze, not only Black trying to squeeze White's liberty, but also trying to make an eye. Therefore, White has to squeeze this White away from Black and squeezing the liberty at the same time. So here comes the final moment. Here comes the final fight between the gods. This is an enormous liberty fight, and who kills who? Black now tries to extend the liberties, and White squeezes that away from Black. Black turns, White honeys, absolutely not an extra liberty for Black. Black squeezes over here, White squeezes Black, Black extends, White turns over here, and Black squeezes. And at this point, Golaxy is trying to play a kid's trick, trying to kill the corner, but of course, most of my viewers know how to live this corner, and therefore, after a few trials, Golaxy comes back and try to focus on the liberty fight. And at this point, there's nothing too fancy. Both players are just playing very straightforward move because they're just trying to kill each other. And at this point, when Golaxy extends on the first line, the game is over. So at this point, after Golaxy played the move over here, Golaxy decided to resign. So let's look at why Golaxy resigned here. If they continue with the liberty fight, we'll just play all the squeezing move out, and let's see how many liberties they each have. So White squeeze over here, Black squeeze from the outside, White takes, Black connects, White squeeze it once again, and then they just start filling in the liberties. And eventually we see that at this point, White only has one liberty left, and Black has plenty more. So at this point, Golaxy reads out everything, and therefore he decided to resign. So throughout this game, we can see that Fine Art has been a grandmaster, especially the fight in the middle with the divine move and a bunch of follow-ups. Of course, Golaxy is defending with his best ability, but just turns out that it was too strong from Fine Art. And I still can't know which move that Golaxy played that led to this loss because they're just too high level. But this is definitely the best game I can find for you guys. I really love this game. This is my favorite game between two AIs. And I think starting from the beginning with the co-fight, Fine Art was very smart when it was trying to create co-threat. And then in the middle fight with the divine move and a bunch of great preparation move. And therefore, Fine Art was able to get 3 moves and kill the dragon in the center. So this game pretty much has everything that makes it a divine game, I think. And I hope you guys enjoy this video.